Hello, everyone. My name's Zach. I'm a PLU alum and the Director of Communications here at the university. And I'm joined today by Mari Matthias, who's a 1994 graduate. How are you doing, Mari?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to learn about your new book. So Mari is an author, and her new book, is it out now or out soon?
November 1st.
November 1st, so probably out maybe probably by the time we publish this. It's
Yeah.
called the Runestone's Promise, and we just want to chat about that for a few minutes. I guess a logical place to start is could you share briefly what your book is about?
Yeah. It's a story about this woman who is living her life, going along, and her mother does something that seems just crazy to her, and she needs to understand why. And yeah, the story is, I meant to write the story about the mother because her life was just very interesting to me, but I ended up writing the story about the daughter and how the daughter dealt with that and how their relationship changed and just her journey and need to know.
How did you land on setting? So if I mentioned up top, this is a novel and a piece of fiction, and it's also set in 1799 in Scandinavia and in the city of Oslo, which was known then as, you say this word for me.
Christiana.
Christiana.
Yeah.
How did you land on this time and place?
Well, most of it actually takes place out in the small country around Christiana. That was the point where I started with the incident of what the mother did that propels her daughter to want to find out what her history is. And that was, this is a story that was in my family history that I found in this book that my mother's cousin put together a genealogy compilation. And so that's when it happened. So that's why we are in that time and place. But the main character, Gertine, her sister is going to be married in a couple of days, and her mother calls the wedding off, and she doesn't understand why. So, and meanwhile, the couple sneak away and marry anyway, but it throws the family into this, unbalanced conflict, chaos, and it propels Gertine to ask questions, and she ends up taking a journey in meeting relatives she didn't know existed and wanting to find out why her mother, what was it in her mother's past that made her the way she was. So.
I muted myself. I'm curious about your process of writing about, somewhere that you don't live, at least now, and over 200 years ago. How did you go about that?
I researched for a really long time. I had what I had in my little book. Yeah, I'll show it to you. This is the book that my mother's cousin put together. Wow. That I got when I was in high school. That's full of just little bits of stories. Then I just did a lot of research about that area. And I also researched more to find out if I could learn more about those specific people. I just did a lot of research of that era. It was really fun.
Have you been there previously in life?
I was there actually with a PLU choir tour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's the only time I've been to Norway, was just in college. And I wasn't thinking about the book at that point. So yeah. I didn't, go there researching. It would have been fun too. It wasn't feasible.
It would have been a long germination process.
Yeah.
What's your writing story? When did you start, writing short stories or thinking of writing fiction? When did that start for you?
I had a great writing teacher in high school, Todd Church. He taught college writing, and it was a class that you had to qualify for, basically. And that was with the first assignment. And I don't remember what the assignment was, but knowing that I had to do a good enough job to stay in the class, I worked really hard on that assignment, and I got an A, and then I was in the class, and after that, I got B's after that. But it taught me that if I worked hard enough, I could write well. Yeah. So writing wasn't really my focus until, I mean, I found this book and it was full of these family stories, and I wanted to write a story in there, but I had a Spanish degree and I got a job working for the state doing bilingual financial services, like welfare eligibility.
Yeah.
And that was great, but it also, I just wanted to be home with my kids a little more than that. And so eventually I used writing this book as an excuse to quit that job. And then I had to write the book.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where that started. I just felt like then I had to work on that project.
And are you like, I did it, I'm done, or are you already like working on the next project?
Well, I finished it. It took a few years first to decide how to write it, and then to do all the research, and then to write it. And then what do? Then you're at the point where you query it, and that whole part is not the fun part for me of writing the book. Then I really didn't work very hard on that. I think in looking back, I probably queried maybe 9 agents and didn't get any response. And so it kind of just got set aside. It just sat in my computer for years as I was a mom and busy with all the life that that you're living. And then I knew somebody who wrote a book and was published, and he did a reading, and I went and asked him what his journey was. He kind of directed me towards this little publishing company in Portland called Unsolicited Press. And so I looked them up, and their website said that they accept maybe 3% of submissions. And so I said, well, whatever, I'll try it anyway. And this was in 2019. So it had been sitting in my computer for several years at that point. And then I was shocked when they offered me a contract. Wow. And that was in February of 2020. And then I started thinking, well, I'm going to write something else. And I started finding another project. And then the pandemic hit, and it was the perfect hobby for a pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I wrote another book that is now sitting in my computer.
Do you, are you involved do you have a writing group or a writing community? I mean, it can be, I know from experience, it can be really isolating, right. Especially if you're not in a program or, some sort of like default community. So is that something that you've been able to build?
Yeah. And that happened with this first book. Found a couple of friends who were exchanging pages and giving feedback to each other. And so I joined them, and that helped me because I had deadlines. Then I had each week we would meet, and I'd need to have a few pages done at least so it kept me moving in the process. So now I'm in another writing group now that I started writing again. That's a different group of people, but it's the same kind of thing. I need those deadlines. I need to have somebody like a little bit pushing me to keep moving, keep progressing. So yeah.
I guess we'll finish just on a best advice question. Like, what's your best advice to, to fellow alums or whoever who maybe feel like they have a story inside them or have half a story out on paper? Like, what's your best advice to folks who, haven't written a book, are thinking about it, want to, but just can't maybe wrap their mind around doing a project of that size? Right.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of people who think that, because there's so many stories out there. Everybody has a story in their past, in their, grandmother did something or other, I think I would just say, don't give up on it, and maybe treat it as you need to be writing for yourself, or for, not because it's hard to get published. So to just keep working at it, but keep some level of expectation and do it for yourself. But it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of work. So you gotta keep working.
So this is Mari Matthias. The book is The Runestone's Promise. And I noticed that this book is all over the place, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. Great. Is there a preferred place that people look it up or shop for it for you?
I guess I would direct people to the publisher. Yeah. They have it available on their site, but really anywhere is great. I'm going to be doing some readings. Hopefully I've got one in Hood River and working on that. So, ask your bookstore to bring me over and
then what's your website with your calendar on it?
It's just marimatthias.com.
Okay, great. We'll put that up on the screen, like
Yeah,
right
thank
here.
you.
Website. All right. Thank you so much for spending some time with me.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Good luck with your book launch. Bye, Mari.
Thank you. Bye.